What's up? We are back again. COVID Cabal. Let me tweet this out. COVID Cabal, guys. COVID Cabal. We are back. Back again. If you guys are here, you know the deal. If you guys are here, leave a comment in the chat. If you're here, leave a comment in the chat. No, I did not tweet out this show earlier today, but those of you on YouTube saw that there was going to be a COVID Cabal today. So I'm not apologizing for lack of notice on the COVID Cabal. You should have known. You should have known there was going to be a COVID Cabal. You should have known it was going to happen. You should have intuited it was going to happen, even if you weren't following me on YouTube, which you should be doing. Even if you weren't subscribed to the channel, which you should be subscribed to the channel. You should have known. I don't accept any excuses here. COVID Cabal, no excuses. This is no excuse zone. Except when we lose elections, then it's excuses. Then we're making excuses. Austin, what's up, sir? What is up, sir? If you're here, leave a comment in the chat. I want those comments in the chat. I want to see who's here at roll call. I'm roll calling you people. That's my man Elvis. My man Elvis is here. Drop a comment in the chat if you are around. Drop a comment in the chat. No wine today, guys. I'm not in the mood for wine. Not today. Taking a day off. Yeah, I didn't have. I had COVID Cabal that night, and then the next two nights I had no ability. I had no time in the evening, basically. So I had to. Friday was the earliest that I could manage, and I'm kind of happy about that, to be honest, because more stuff's come out. So we're gonna do about this. We got Train Companion in the gym. Big surprise, my man getting swole here. These days I gotta settle for the fucking elliptical. Taking calls on the elliptical. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at right now. All right, guys. I think we got a good thing going on here. So, topic of this COVID Cabal is punditry in a time of election theft. Why did I call it that? Why am I talking about punditry in the time of election theft? Well, here's why. When your elections are stolen, it doesn't fucking matter what your political analysis is if it deviates from this. Okay? We talked about this on COVID Cabal earlier in the week, how they were not going to, I saw on the ground here tons and tons of enthusiasm for Jack. And that is backed by the data. He won 100,000 more votes than he did in the last election. But Mickey Sherrill, who I never heard a single person talk about, no one was excited about. She was filled with like scandals. She didn't simply win. She won 500,000 more votes than in the prior election. So basically, she increased her vote total like 40%. You see this number here, right? So Phil Murphy got 1.13 million, right? Mickey Sherrill, less enthusiasm, less popularity, gets 1,800,000 basically. And it's continued to go up. It's continued to go up. So here's the thing about this. I've heard some rumors about, it's all coming from the inner cities. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? This is literally 2020 election Biden level vote shift. Speaking of 2020 Biden election vote shift, let's look at Virginia. 175,000 votes show up in the morning. Look at this. Look at this graph here. Look at that. You see a natural, normal trend line, and then all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, they all flip. Now, I'm going to tell you what happened here is this is the mail-in voting, and this is how the mail-in voting fraud works. You're able to ascertain because people have to put their stuff in ahead of time. So you already have the votes, right? You already have the votes. So you know who voted. And when you know who voted, then you know you have all this stuff prepared ahead of time. And you know that then, okay, on election day, at the very end of the day, you know that we can stuff the ballots with these people's votes because we know they're not going to turn out. And part of this is done with AI analytics. Part of it's preparation. I have heard that the machines were being pressured to really go hard on this. We're going to see what happens. I'm going to give you guys a prediction, though. I'm going to give you guys a prediction. This is my prediction. My prediction is that more of this fraud is going to get uncovered. And my prediction is it's eventually going to come to a head where Trump, the DOJ, is going to say that there was fraud in the elections and that the election results are not valid. And when that occurs, they are not going to step down. And that is the catalyst for the direct confrontation that we've been waiting for. Because I've been trying to think, what is going to be the catalyst? I think that that's a possibility of how it could play out. I think it's a possibility for how it could play out. Because to me, there's not even a shadow of a doubt in my mind that there was fraud in the elections. Again, it's one of these things, like, don't believe your own eyes. Here's some more data points for you guys. I think Mondami won, by the way, in New York. They may have done shenanigans there. I don't think it changed the results in New York. But I do think it changed the results for sure in New Jersey. And probably also Virginia. Let's look at some more data points here. Here's something interesting. Some Hispanic precincts move 15 points right compared to 2021. Some move 15 points to the left. Doesn't make any fucking sense. Doesn't make any sense. Something is brewing. Trump slamming the binder closed a few weeks ago is another tell. He's at his wit's end. Yeah, I think, I mean, I didn't save the tweet I put out there, but I think that this is, you know, look, he understands that this is going to come to a head. I think he's probably frustrated with some of his underlings. I think he's frustrated at the fact that the Republicans won't kill the filibuster. I mean, imagine how frustrating it is to have cowards all around you. You're trying to fight a war and you got fucking like cowards. Everything you do, you're held back because you have cowards and traitors all around you. There's just like a core center of will, like in his cabinet. And then even in parts of his cabinet, maybe there's weaker will. And then in Congress, it's just a mess. And the judges, it's like people just, there's so many of them who are just really, they're fucking cowards. That's really, I don't, it's no other word for it. They don't have a fight in them. So I can very much see this as a catalyst. I can see this being how things kick off, because they will then say he's trying to remove the democratically elected people. He is this fascist. And that's what they do. They use these elections, which barely function anymore. And they use this election as the call against him. This is how Trump will overstep his power. And this is the thing. This is how they bait him. And if he doesn't overstep his, if he doesn't, if he doesn't take action, though, then what do you get? You get all these fucking states stolen. And you get the same thing that happens. Like, you can't actually govern the union because you cannot create actual real political change in any state. If a state is captured by blue infrastructure, it can never be uncaptured because they keep stealing the elections in that state. There is only one way to handle it, and that is, the Insurrection Act. It's always been the case. Set up all the way back from season 1 COVID cabal. Maybe it wasn't the right time, but this is where it's going. It's going that direction. We all know it's going that direction. Cowards are corrupt. I mean, they're definitely corrupt. They're traitors, right? They want their own, they have their own power, they want their own thing, but they don't understand what time it is. They don't understand that, like, they're just trying to milk this beast to the end. I don't know. I really like, maybe some of them are gonna get through. Maybe they understand what leverage they have, but the filibuster isn't even constitutional. Like, we've talked about this. Like, it is a procedural thing. That's all it is. There's like, we are trying to not even govern the country based on like the filibuster. Like, we can't get rid of the filibuster. Why? That's not how you're supposed to run the country. But they do it because then they don't have to have anything get done, and they can let the bureaucracy, they just wait it out. They wait out changes with the filibuster. That's over. All this stuff is over. So I'm telling you guys, I think that's where it comes to a head, because if you look at the timing here, if our target is Q1, by the end of Q1 2026, we're going to see this standoff, this direct confrontation. Let's even say, if you look at the astrology, they're saying mid-February, right? From late January to mid-February. So if we're looking at it from that perspective, then this time frame makes pretty good sense, because they're going to get installed in power, and then there will be a pull to invalidate the results and a resistance to that. We'll see. I could be wrong about this, but I'm throwing it out there for food for thought, because what I want to encourage you guys is that it looks very, very dark right now. It looks very, very dark right now. And I know a lot of people are frustrated. A lot of people are losing hope. And I'll just tell you guys, like, first off, did you actually think this was going to be an easy fight? Did you actually think that they weren't going to put up a fight? You thought they were just going to roll over, that they weren't going to steal these elections when it's like their last stand? If they could run up, like, entrench themselves in any place they possibly could before this fight, you think they wouldn't do it? They had no reason not to steal these elections. If they didn't steal them, they're gonna, then what? You're just gonna concede the loss of these states? No, they're gonna pull out all the stops. It was always expected. I think that the scale of it was higher. 500,000, that was pretty substantial. But that's good, because it was so much more substantial, it makes it so much more obvious. It's going to be harder, like, if it had been like, if they didn't have such a crazy amount in these races, like, again, look at this. 175,000 votes in the middle of the night. They didn't win New Jersey and Virginia. I'm just calling it like I see it. They didn't win it. Let's see what else here. Look at this. 50% Hispanic town. The mayor endorsed the Republican. Look at this vote. Look at this vote shift. Look at how weird this looks. A 21-point swing from Harris to Sherrill in 1 year. Very strange. Very strange. Now, this is very strange in a lot of ways. Does not fix. You have what happened in the inner cities. That's not an inner city town. I don't know Bellevue, but that's very strange. That's a very strange political. I'm going to put that up again. 1 year. You see some of these things, you can see like a 10-point move, but that was over the course of 4 years. And look at that, even when you think about it. Biden, I don't know if they stole in this exact state, right? But you can see that where the trend has been. The trend has been going, okay, every 10-point moves right every year. And then 1 year into the Trump administration, 20-point shift the other direction. It's worth considering to what extent that has to do with deportations. It's worth considering it. But in my experience, legal Hispanics are all about the deportations, especially legal Hispanics who are moving to the right. The deportations are not, I mean, if you're moving more towards the right, when the right, like, Trump was campaigning on deportations. Maybe I'm just saying these things don't make sense. And I would say, yeah, it's 2020 all over again. It's 2020. The scale of it is 2020 all over again. And I do think that we're at that point. This is a mistake, by the way. You should not be watching COVID Cabal. You should be watching the masterclass if you have it. If you don't have it, it's okay. It's on release on Friday next week. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing course. We're getting so much good feedback in the group right now. So I'm really excited for you guys. Get it on the launch weekend, okay? Because you're going to get a deal on it. You're going to get some special stuff if you get it during launch weekend. And it'll never happen again. You will never get what you're getting launch weekend if you don't get launch weekend. So Friday the 14th through Monday the 17th, that's your deal window. All right. Do I feel that Trump is tone deaf on the economy? He is good about listening to the base, but is the message getting through? This is a great question. I do not think that Trump is tone deaf on the economy. This is what I think. And so I appreciate the comment because it also gets me back on track. The punditry around this election is, I think, mostly wrong. Not entirely wrong, but mostly wrong, in the same way that they're like, well, here's why Trump lost in 2020 when he didn't lose. And we have to deal with people talking about it like, if Trump had done this, he wouldn't have lost. Like, they stole the fucking election. You would not be talking about this if they had not stolen the election. You would not be saying, well, if he had done this, if they hadn't stolen the election. All of because all this is what punditry is. It's a attempt to fit, a result. How do I explain this result? And if you put aside the election theft, then you explaining a result is like, it's nonsense. It's like somebody like Trump could win by 10 points. He would have had a massive landslide, let's say. And you're saying, oh, well, this is what Trump messed up. Trump messed up. He didn't mess up. He won. He won decisively, and they stole it. No one will talk about it. You know what I mean? So this is like when I hear the punditry after this stuff and I look like, oh yeah, 500,000 votes come out of nowhere. Completely unexplainable. When I see that stuff, I'm like, can we just stay on topic? Can we try to address the real issue? Because it actually becomes a form of like cope and self-flagellation. Trump has been hampered by a perceived lack of effectiveness in going after the left, perhaps. Hard to tell, to be honest, how much of that is coming just from people on the right, in the right-wing circles. I think with the economy, like this, we have a real tightrope, and we've talked about this on previous COVID cabals. We have a real economic tightrope right now. And I've heard people say he's too focused on foreign policy, needs to come back home. They don't understand. They're not Luongo pilled, right? They don't understand that Trump's foreign policy is designed to cut the financial networks of the cabal out. Because when we get into a direct confrontation in the States, they need to be strapped for cash. And they need to have all these other points of pressure around the world. They need to be diffused. So they can't distract us. They can't have us fight wars on multiple different fronts. Trump is delaying, and I said this from the very beginning of this, when we started these COVID cabals again, season 2. Said it from the very beginning, okay? I said Trump had until the summer of 26. He did not have to take direct action against the left. Everybody wants him to, but he had no incentive to in many ways. When we look at the surface and we look at what they could do because we didn't confront the left. Now they were able to do this. Okay, but what you're not seeing is that because we didn't confront the left yet directly, we were able to do this. These are all the other ways that we've been able to shore up our position. And by the way, it creates also more political capital to do things. Now, of course, the election theft can affect narratives to mute some of this stuff. But we are Trump is very much trying to preserve the economy when we are under threat from multiple different directions. Like they had the way you have to look at this is there's been an economic time bomb set on this country that they have been prepping all the way since the financial crisis. And Biden took it to the fucking limit. Okay? So they had set the foundation for this after the financial crisis, and then Biden built the bomb for the economy. And this was a win-win for their perspective, because if they stole the election again, they would use the economic crisis to implement CBDCs, all the stuff that we knew in conspiracy circles was like their, plan for economic control. And if they failed, then they would be giving Trump an economy that they could blow up at will and create maximum chaos with. And Trump and Besant, and also in many ways with the immigration enforcement, right? Homan, Noam, and also with foreign policy going after the cartels. There's so many different parts of this because it's all intertwined. They're trying to undo this economic time bomb. Setting the foundation for a very, very good situation for us. I understand, obviously, the average person, they first off, they don't even understand this. They don't know that this is going on because it's obscured. But more than this, yeah, I mean, voters have, what have you done for me lately? And Trump's being also undercut by a lot of these businesses, which have decided, very interestingly, all of a sudden to just start laying off tons of workers. And of course, trying to get more H-1Bs. So we are under attack. It's a fight. But this is all going to get resolved before the midterms. And I'm going to put some steel in your spine, because even just from an astrological perspective, it was expected to be a period of perceived setbacks. And this is a good story. This is our story. This is our fight. But come next year with the midterms, we are going to have a decisive victory. It is going to be so decisive, I think it's going to be enough to be able to change the Constitution. We are going to absolutely fucking crush them completely. It's what's going to happen. I feel very, very deeply in my bones that America's bicentennial, our 250th, right, is going to be a very beautiful day for America. And the country is going to have a renewed sense of hope, because a lot of stuff will have been taken care of. And I'm not one to, with these like Q posts and whatever, I'm not one to, so to speak, try to ever take anything like literally on timestamps, but I do wonder as we get through this spring what's gonna happen. I wonder what's gonna happen. So, and this is great stuff right here. Trump is doing exactly what he's supposed to with the economy, killing the debt-based financial system. Fed and debt-based currency needs to go, but it has to be a smooth transition. I did not see this. That's very interesting. Matt Gaetz published an image of Q very recently. I mean, Q's real. It's just a question of, what is it? Military intelligence? But it's obviously our side. And you see it. You've seen the, basically Russia's economic ambassador to the United States, investment ambassador, like Kirill or something like that, Kirilov. He's been Q posting constantly, because this is what these meetings with Xi in Russia, one of the things that's really interesting is, and Luongo talks about this, is how all these like cartels are actually different arms, like the mafias. So like the mafias in China, for instance, are the ones who are actually responsible for most of the a lot of the sabotage that goes on in the country. And of course, they're tied to CCP officials, but it's not. And I'm not carrying water for the CCP per se, because I think that we are rivals with the CCP, and they've certainly done things to damage the country. But I think it's very hard to sort out, well, who within the CCP was doing that, and under whose orders were all these things happening. And it's interesting when you get into the fact that, like, you have these mafias and these cartels, that they are actually working with the intelligence agencies, right? That goes all the way back to World War II, by the way. Gladio, right? The invasion of Italy was done in, working with Cosa Nostra. So these groups, we think of them as just trafficking drugs, but they're actually working with the intelligence agencies and the cabal. So I think that we are, people are going to have to hold out, and I don't think that this is actually a referendum on Trump. And I think that's fallen into left framing, and you have to keep the focus on the election fraud. That's my perspective. I'm not saying don't learn from it. I do think that Epstein, a lot of the Israel stuff certainly demoralizes parts of Trump's base. But that's not, but I don't know to what extent that is the reason that people, quote unquote, didn't turn out. And I don't buy that, because Jack got more votes, 100,000 more votes than he got in 2021. So someone's got to have to square that circle about people not turning out for Trump. They're going to have to square the circle, because Republican turnout was very, very high. And I understand they were saying, okay, independents didn't show up as much, but it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to have these kind of numbers come forward. It doesn't make any sense. Last thing I'm going to say before I jump. Let me put this one first. We're starting to find out about the January 6th pipe bomber and how it was Capitol Police Officer Shawnee Kirkhoff. Now that the alleged identity of the January 6th pipe bomber Shawnee Kirkhoff is finally being forced into the light, every single person connected to that operation needs to be exposed and indicted. Let's stop pretending this was some lone actor. Nothing about January 6th happened in a vacuum. There were networks, there were handlers, there were people who knew exactly what was happening and when. They inflicted psychological warfare on the American people. And to add to this, they're going to say maybe it was a training exercise. I don't know if this is what's going to happen. But the point is, this stuff is getting exposed. It's coming out. And guys, we're going to get them. We're going to win. We're going to win. But let's not get distracted with the punditry saying, oh, the reason we're losing is because Trump didn't do this, he didn't do that. I admit I would have liked to see more direct action, especially in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk. But war is deception. War is deception. And we can make our feelings known, and we should make our feelings known. But don't think for a second that Trump in this administration do not know what is going on. This is not a captured administration like in Trump's first term. There is no analogous dynamics between these two administrations. The same mistakes are not happening again, is what I'm trying to say. So we are going to get there. And if things are not going according to plan, they may have had a setback. They may have had to adjust something based on information that we don't necessarily know about. I'm still a plan truster. I also think that you should chimp. Go ahead and chimp, but chimp about the fact that they stole the fucking elections. Don't accept some sort of framing that the left is surging. They're not surging. I'm not saying underestimate them. I'm not saying that. They certainly have found their motivating presence in Mamdani and in their bloodlust in general. But they are not winning. They do not have the mandate of the public. And if you start to go too far with this and read too much into these affected results, then you are actually going to help the left. That's my take. I will see you guys next week. All right, guys, I'll see you guys next week. This is interesting, by the way. I'll close with this. CCP, I don't think the CCP is itself the enemy after all. Xi, who has now met Trump, fired 300,000 generals from the PLA a while back. And yes, this is the Kirill Dmitriev is the Russian guy I was telling you about, the trade guy. You can read it two ways with the fired generals with the CCP. You can that these people were fired because they were outmaneuvered. So, all right. If you guys have the masterclass, dig in and buy it on Friday when it comes out. I'll see you, gentlemen. Take care.